There is a silent force destroying more dreams than failure ever could. It doesn't appear in the news. It doesn't leave visible scars. Most people never notice it, until years of their lives have already slipped away. It steals confidence before you ever use it. It steals opportunities before you ever take them. It steals relationships by convincing you that you're not enough, and slowly, almost invisibly, it steals the person you were capable of becoming. The frightening part is that this enemy doesn't live somewhere out in the world. It lives inside your own mind. Negative thinking never arrives like a storm. It arrives like a whisper that says, maybe you're not good enough. Someone else can do it better. Wait until you're ready. Don't take the risk. At first, those words sound harmless, then they become familiar. Eventually, they become your reality. Greatest prison in the world has never been built with concrete. It's built with beliefs, repeated so many times that they begin to feel like facts. Imagine a bird raised inside a cage. Every day it looks through the bars at the open sky, at you. First it fights, it flaps its wings. It tries to escape, but after enough time, it stops trying. One day the cage door is left open. The bird looks outside and stays exactly where it is, not because it has lost its wings, because it has lost the belief that it can fly. Millions of people live exactly like that, not trapped by their circumstances, but by the stories they've repeated inside their own minds for years. No, one is born believing they aren't enough. A child doesn't enter the world thinking they're a failure. Those beliefs are learned. A teacher laughs at a mistake. Someone compares you to another person. A dream doesn't work out. Someone says you'll never succeed. Each moment seems small, almost forgettable, but your mind never truly forgets. It quietly collects every painful experience and slowly turns them into a story. I always fail. I'm unlucky. I'm too late. I'm just not talented. Without realizing it, you stop describing your experiences. You start describing yourself. There's a difference between saying I failed and saying I am a failure. One describes a moment. The other creates an identity, and identities shape destinies. Your brain is extraordinary, but it has one habit that most people never understand. It searches for proof of whatever you already believe. You're unlucky. It remembers every bad day. Believe nobody respects you. It notices every sign of rejection. Believe success isn't meant for you. Every obstacle becomes confirmation, not because those beliefs are true, but because your brain wants consistency. It would rather protect an old belief than discover a new possibility. Thousands of years ago, this ability kept human beings alive. The people who noticed danger survived. The people who ignored danger often didn't, but today, your greatest danger isn't a predator hiding in the forest. It's a thought hiding inside your own mind, a thought convincing you not to try, not to speak, not to dream, not to begin. Think about how many people never apply for the job they truly want. Not because they aren't qualified, because they already rejected themselves. Think about how many businesses never exist because someone was too afraid to fail. Think about how many books were never written, songs never composed, ideas never shared, simply because fear whispered, "You're not ready." The world has lost countless masterpieces, not because people lack talent, but because they believe the lies their minds kept repeating. Here's something remarkable. The most successful people in history weren't fearless. They felt doubt, they felt anxiety, they experienced rejection. The difference was simple. They refused to let fear make their decisions. Fear sat beside them. It just never held the steering wheel. Most people spend their lives waiting to feel confident. But confidence has never come before action. Confidence is created by action. A baby doesn't learn to walk because it believes it won't fall. It learns because every fall teaches it something new. Imagine if every child quit after falling 5 times. None of us would know how to walk, yet as adults, one rejection is enough to stop us from trying again. One criticism becomes the reason we stay silent. One mistake becomes the excuse to give up. That's the invisible prison, not failure, but the meaning we attach to failure. Two people can experience the exact same setback. One says, "This proves I'm not good enough." The other says, "This is teaching me how to become better." Same event, different meaning. Completely different future. Life isn't shaped only by what happens to you, it's shaped by the story you tell yourself afterward, and every single day, you are writing that story. And every single day, you are writing that story. The question is, are you writing a story of fear or a story of growth? Most people believe their future is decided by luck. Some blame their past, others blame their family, their education, their country, or the opportunities they never had. Those things can influence your life, but they should never be allowed to define it, because history has always belonged to the people who refused to let their circumstances become their identity. Some of the world's greatest achievements were born in moments that looked like complete failure. Behind every successful person is a chapter filled with rejection, uncertainty, and disappointment. The difference is that they treated failure as feedback instead of a final verdict. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's often the road that leads to it. Imagine an archer aiming at a target. If every arrow misses, does the archer throw away the bow? No. They adjust, they learn, they aim again. Life works exactly the same way. Every mistake is information. Every setback is a lesson. Every challenge is preparing you for a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. The problem is, negative thinking never lets you see that version. It keeps your eyes fixed on who you used to be instead of who you could become. It reminds you of every reason to stop, every reason to wait, every reason to stay comfortable. Comfort feels safe, but comfort has destroyed more dreams than failure ever will. Nothing extraordinary grows inside a life where nothing changes. Growth begins the moment comfort ends. That's why every meaningful transformation feels uncomfortable at first. The first workout hurts. The first speech feels terrifying. The first business idea feels risky. The first step is always the hardest. Not because the step is impossible, but because your mind is trying to pull you back toward what feels familiar. Remember this: your comfort zone isn't always a safe place. Sometimes it's simply a beautiful prison. Everything inside it feels predictable. Nothing inside it changes your life. Outside that prison is uncertainty, but outside that prison is also opportunity. Outside that prison is confidence. Outside that prison is the life you've been dreaming about. The greatest tragedy isn't failing. The greatest tragedy is reaching the end of your life and realizing you spent decades asking permission from fear. Years from now, you won't remember every difficult day. You won't remember every awkward conversation. You won't remember every small mistake. But you will remember the opportunities you were too afraid to take. Regret grows quietly. It doesn't hurt today. It hurts years later. When you finally realize the door was open all along, you simply never walked through it. Here's something powerful. You don't need to believe every thought that enters your mind. Thoughts are visitors, not commanders. A negative thought knocking on your mind's door doesn't deserve to live there forever. Acknowledge it. Learn from it if there's something useful, then let it leave. Because the thoughts you entertain become the beliefs you build, and the beliefs you build become the life you live. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. Feed your mind fear, or feed it courage. Feed it excuses, or feed it discipline. Feed it doubt, or feed it hope. Whatever you feed consistently will eventually control you. No one changes their life in a single day. People change their lives through small decisions repeated over and over again. Reading one chapter instead of scrolling for another hour. Taking one walk instead of making another excuse. Making one phone call you've been avoiding. Applying for the opportunity you've convinced yourself you don't deserve. Small actions seem insignificant until they become habits, and habits become character. Character becomes destiny. 1 year from today, you'll either thank yourself for starting or wish you had. The choice begins now, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when life becomes easier, because life rarely becomes easier. You become stronger. And when you become stronger, the obstacles that once looked impossible begin to look ordinary. That's the moment everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Final lesson. If you remember only one thing from this message, let it be this. Your mind can be your greatest ally, or your most convincing liar. It will remind you of your failures. It will exaggerate your fears. It will tell you to wait until you're ready. But the people who build extraordinary lives understand one truth. They don't wait for fear to disappear. They move forward with it, because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that your future matters more than your doubts. Never let one bad chapter convince you that your story is over. Never let one failure become your identity. And never allow a temporary emotion to make a permanent decision. The invisible prison was never built from steel. It was built from beliefs. The beautiful thing about beliefs is that they can be changed. The moment you challenge the voice that says, "I can't," you take back control of your life. The moment you replace excuses with action, the walls begin to fall. And the moment you stop asking fear for permission, you discover something that was always true. The door was never locked. The key was never missing. The freedom you were searching for has been inside you all along. So when life tests you again, and it will, don't ask yourself, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead say, "This is not the end of my story. This is the chapter that will make me stronger." Because in the end, the greatest victory isn't becoming richer, or more famous, or more successful. The greatest victory is becoming the person your fears could never stop. And once you conquer your own mind, there is no prison left that can hold you.